breaking down the deals, data, and disruption shaping global markets. You're listening to The Daily Ledger with Dennis Sert.
Hey folks, it is Thursday, January 29th, 2026. You're listening to The Daily Ledger Show, and I'm your host, Dennis Sert. Great to be here with you today. We got some good stories we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Tesla earnings call, Meta earnings call, a little bit of Microsoft. U.S. companies are still slashing jobs to reverse pandemic hiring boom. Meta reports record sales, massive spending hike on AI build-out. We already said that, though. And we have some rather unfortunate Waymo news that I'd like to cover, but kind of as objectively as possible. So I'm not going to comment much further on that until we get to the story. Before we get into our stories today, let's talk about some of the markets. The Dow Jones is up 0.06%. The Nasdaq is up 0.17%. The S&P 500 is up 0.08%. And Bitcoin is down 3.96%, down to 86,123. Seem to have precipitously dropped since yesterday. Okay, before we get into today's stories, make sure to download By AI Market Analysis off the iOS App Store. It basically is a financial co-pilot that tells you when you should enter and exit the stock market for all of your stocks in your portfolio. It does it based off of technical indicators like the Bollinger Bands, RSI curve, and the MACD/signal curve, which is like a mathy way of looking at entry and exit signals, as well as news sentiment. It's all AI driven, and there's a great ROI of between 10 and 15% on average. So, oh, by the way, neither I nor By AI are financial advisors, and past success does not guarantee future results. However, it's a great tool I use every morning. I use it throughout the day, in fact, as you should as well, to make better informed trades. So download By AI Market Analysis off the iOS App Store today. Okay, let's talk about our first story. Tesla profit slumps, but investors may not care. The automaker also said it would invest $2 billion in XAI, the artificial intelligence company controlled by its CEO, Elon Musk, and stop making the two oldest lineup models in its lineup. So that's actually the biggest news. It's the fact that, the TLDR is that Tesla is no longer making Model S's or Model X's. They didn't do very well in Q4. Their profit went down by 46%, and BYD overtook Tesla as the top global electric vehicle maker. And it pains me to say that, but I try and call balls and strikes on this show. So even though I do like Elon, I'm a Tesla fan, you kind of have to say the numbers how they are, right? I will say that the reason why that they're discontinuing their Model X and S cars is because they want to use those factories to build Optimus robots. So that's the stated reason. And I believe it. I mean, honestly, I believe in the vision. I want basically ubiquitous, autonomous, humanoid robots. And that's also what Elon wants. That's why you got the $1 trillion pay package, right? So, yeah, and the fact of the matter is, it was really last decade's technology to have great electric vehicles, right? And then this next upcoming decade's technology is autonomous vehicles, right? So Cybercab, Waymo, as well as, of course, humanoid robots, right? So that's kind of where things are going. So it's gonna take a little bit of a dive, I think, in terms of its profit in the short term. However, in June of this year, that's when the Cybercab is beginning basically deployment. So that's when the factory comes online in Texas, and that's when they start making Cybercabs. Of course, they've been doing Model Y sort of Cybercab like technology deployed in Austin, Texas, for the past like 3 to 6 months. So they're making good progress on that. Waymo has more cars out there. Of course, they use a different type of technology, LiDAR, whereas Tesla Cybercabs and like Model Ys that are using that technology are they're completely using camera technology. So they're just relying on visuals, which Elon says, I believe correctly, is the future. You don't want to rely on LiDAR, just because the way LiDAR works, you have to pre-map the city, and you have to map the city every time you want to expand. Whereas with Tesla fully autonomous driving, um, it doesn't have to necessarily have mapped that city right beforehand. And case in point, in like China, they've been able to deploy autonomous vehicles, like fully autonomous vehicles, Tesla vehicles, and it's done just fine. Like with FSD, unsupervised FSD, like one of the most advanced versions of FSD. It was supervised FSD, but it was working just fine in China. So that's kind of an interesting route, of course. Interesting thought, because they hadn't had pre-mapped out this particular city that they were operating in China. Okay, so we talked about this. U.S. companies are still slashing jobs to reverse pandemic hiring boom. Many corporations binged on labor during the pandemic. Now facing economic uncertainty and threats from AI, they're slimming down. Yeah, well, that's been happening for a long time. Long time. Um, UPS said Tuesday it is expected to slash 30,000 jobs this year. Wow, again, on top of the 48,000 job cuts last year. Yeah, that was just like last year. It was just a couple months ago. That is just wild. I'm not even surprised anymore. Like, this is where things are going, and they're talking about, yeah, we they're the scapegoat is the bloat, but the real reason is the AI, right? And we talked about CloudBot yesterday, which essentially takes over your computer and just can do anything that you can do on your computer, right? Um, so, and Claudebot is just essentially a lobster as a logo. Like, I'm not trying to knock Claudebot, but like, imagine when either a big tech company acquires them, or a competitor that does the exact same thing becomes appealing to sort of the professional workforce, right? Because haven't yeah, I mean, not to knock a logo, but I'm just saying that because I don't at the end of the day, I personally don't care about logos. I think it's like, do you offer good service or not? But what I'm saying is, like, if you want mass adoption of a very successful product or service, like, into if you want to penetrate the professional workforce, then perhaps a rival or a rebranded version of the lobster will be able to sort of do that, and then just completely slash um, just jobs, which is just what's happening, right? And it's like, and again, I may be a little bit of a accelerationist. I own it, right? It's like, but the fact of the matter is, the genie is out of the bottle. It's over. It's time to just completely embrace the future. And that's where we're at. Starbucks chief executive Brian Nicole said the company would likely be hiring fewer corporate support centers, with more job growth showing in the chain's cafes. What's going to happen when Optimus and, the Neo 1X come out and they start they start taking over the barista positions? Like, that's not a safe job either, right? In the next, let's say, 5 years, that is something that will be happening, right? Technological advancement is exponential, right? So, anyways, Meta reports record sales, massive spending hikes on AI build out. The company says its sales were about $60 billion in the fourth quarter, for a year-over-year growth rate of 24%. Very healthy, very nice, ahead of analyst expectations. So yeah, so as we know, Meta started slashing funding, started laying off um, employees and engineers in the reality labs sector of their business, um, as well as just like investment into the metaverse. And so they're focusing more on AI. They've acquired a few companies in that space, in agentic AI, that is that space. Recently, and they're basically talking about how um, they're going to essentially 2x their last year's investment capital. So that's kind of interesting. They're burning a lot of cash. So there's that. We have a few AI models on the way. We have avocado, and mango, which of course are the code names, but apparently that's what's cooking right now. And they're expected to be released in the first half of this year. So how about that? I want to cover this story. Waymo robotaxi hits a child near an elementary school in Santa Monica. So Waymo. So here's what happened. So apparently there was this young kid that was kind of behind a larger vehicle, and the Waymo was kind of going along right that street, and then the kid suddenly pulled out from behind the, I guess it's like a semi truck or like a large car, and then the Waymo immediately decelerated upon even like the slightest amount of the kid coming out from behind the vehicle. The Waymo decelerated from 17 miles per hour down to 6 miles per hour, and then contact was made. And then the kid kind of dusted himself off, got onto the sidewalk, and then Waymo contacted the NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. It called the cops. And so that's what happened. Now, Waymo says that their peer-reviewed model shows a fully attentive human driver in the same situation would have made contact with the pedestrian at approximately 14 miles per hour. This significant reduction in impact speed and severity is a demonstration of the material safety benefit of the Waymo driver. You know what? I believe it. And I want to kind of, again, take this with utmost respect, right? And I actually do tip the cap to Waymo. Nice job for slowing down that much, because if that's true, which I believe it is, according to their peer-reviewed model, that a fully attentive human driver would have hit the kid at a much higher speed, almost about a little bit more than 2 times the speed that it did. I mean, the kid would have been a lot in a lot worse shape, right? Because at the end of the day, the kid did just kind of just walk out from behind a large vehicle onto the street, right? So you have to make sure that pedestrians are also kind of still smart, right? So hopefully the parents do a better job teaching the kid. Hopefully he's okay, but hopefully the parents will teach him to, kind of do the left, look right, look left, then move, right? Not the walk out randomly, right? I don't think I mean, I don't think anybody should be teaching their kid not to do the look left, look right, look left thing when crossing the street. All right. So, anyways, I think we're gonna end it there. Make sure to download Byte AI Market Analysis off the iOS App Store to make better trades. And we will see you tomorrow. Hope you have a great day filled with lots of profit in the stock market. Peace.